The suffering of Jesus is one of the most powerful and transformative experiences narrated in the Bible. For many Christians, Jesus' journey to the cross is not merely a historical event, but a moment of profound identification with human pain. The words Jesus spoke during this time, uttered in such agony, offer a unique perspective on mercy, forgiveness, and unshakable trust in God. On the way to Calvary, Jesus faced abandonment, torture, and mockery, yet he also expressed deep feelings that reflect both his humanity and divinity. Every word he spoke on the cross carries eternal significance, not just for those who were present at that moment, but for all of us who in some way also face pain and hardship. In this video, we will explore the words of Jesus in moments of great suffering, beginning with the episode in Gethsemane, where he, in his agony, prepares to face the greatest sacrifice in history. Each of his words at that moment reveals not only his suffering, but also the key to understanding the redemption he brings to us all. The scene in the Garden of Gethsemane is undoubtedly one of the most intense and revealing of Jesus' life. After the Last Supper, he withdrew to pray, knowing that the time of his crucifixion was near. However, unlike a peaceful or heroic death, he faced an immense internal struggle. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death," Jesus told his disciples, revealing the depth of his anguish. Here, we see a Jesus who, despite his divinity, fully experiences human pain. While praying, he asked the Father that, if possible, the cup of suffering be taken from him, yet at the same time surrendered to the divine will. "Yet not as I will, but as you will." Jesus was not only speaking of imminent physical death, but of the full weight of sin and separation that he, as the Son of God, would have to bear. Jesus' pain in Gethsemane was not merely that of a man about to die, but of someone who knew exactly the price he would pay for humanity. He who was without sin would take upon himself the sins of all, a burden too heavy for any human to bear. And in this moment of deep sadness, he still turned to the Father, demonstrating trust and submission, something few could fully comprehend. This scene in Gethsemane is crucial, for it shows us a completely human Jesus who is also perfectly obedient to God's will. Jesus' anguish is the pain of someone who, out of love, gives himself unreservedly to the mission of saving humanity. As the brutal course of Jesus' crucifixion continued, something surprising happened. Amid the cries of pain and mockery from soldiers and religious leaders, Jesus spoke words that remain one of the greatest examples of mercy ever recorded. "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." These words, spoken in a moment of immense pain, reveal Jesus' deep spirit of forgiveness, even in the face of injustice and suffering. The act of forgiving in a moment of extreme pain reflects his divine nature. Jesus, being innocent, was unjustly accused, publicly humiliated, and tortured beyond measure. Yet instead of calling for vengeance or justice, he chose mercy. He not only forgave the soldiers who crucified him, but also interceded for the forgiveness of those who did not understand the impact of their actions. Jesus' words are not just a request, but an active demonstration of love and compassion, even toward those who mistreat him. These words carry significant weight for all of us. Jesus teaches us, through his example, that forgiveness is not merely a moral choice, but a necessity for true inner healing. He shows us that even when we are wronged, peace of mind comes not from vengeance, but from surrendering to forgiveness. At this moment in his life, when he could have called for justice, Jesus chose forgiveness, and in doing so, he teaches us the path to true redemption. This is not a redemption that comes from words alone, but from actions that express a love that transcends all human suffering. When Jesus neared the end of his journey on the cross, he uttered a final prayer. "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." These words are a final expression of trust and complete surrender to the Father, showing once again the deep intimacy Jesus maintained with God throughout his life and ministry. Amid indescribable suffering, he did not question or complain, but chose to entrust his soul to the Father with unwavering confidence. These words carry great theological and personal significance. By saying, "Into your hands I commit my spirit," Jesus is not only acknowledging God's sovereignty, but also demonstrating that even in the face of death, he does not lose faith. There is a deep peace in this surrender, a complete yielding to God's will. He does not rebel against the suffering he faces, but accepts it as part of the divine plan for humanity's salvation. For Christians, these words are an example of how we should live our own faith. They teach us to trust God not only in moments of joy, but especially in times of pain. Jesus, with his attitude, shows us that it is possible to face even the greatest adversities with the certainty that our lives are in the hands of a loving and sovereign God. Moreover, Jesus' final surrender also prefigures his victory over death. By giving himself up in this way, he is not surrendering to defeat, but affirming that by following God's will, he has fulfilled the mission of bringing redemption. Death is not the end, but merely the transition to eternal glory. Amid the physical torment of the cross, one of Jesus' most poignant words is simple yet profound: "I am thirsty." These words reveal the full humanity of Jesus. Although he was the Son of God, Jesus did not hide his human experience, including the physical limitations of the body. By saying, "I am thirsty," he not only expresses a physiological need, but also gives us an opportunity to reflect on his identity as both fully divine and fully human. Jesus' thirst is not merely a physical lack of water, but an expression of the deep suffering he was subjected to. He had been scourged, crowned with thorns, and carried the cross to Golgotha, all without a drop of relief. His thirst is evidence of his human weakness, and it is precisely in this vulnerability that we see the beauty of his sacrifice. He, the creator of the universe, made himself vulnerable to save us. This expression also points to the profound truth that Jesus, even in his extreme pain, never lost sight of his mission. By expressing his thirst, he is fulfilling the scriptures, showing that every word and act on the cross has a divine purpose. In Psalm 22:15, King David prophesied about the suffering of the Messiah, saying, "My mouth is dried up like a potsherd." The words, "I am thirsty," are not merely an expression of need, but the fulfillment of a messianic prophecy, linking his physical suffering to God's redemptive plan. The cross, with its unbearable weight and relentless torture, is where Jesus completed the work of redemption. Christ's suffering was not in vain. It had an eternal and profound purpose: to restore the relationship between God and humanity. Through his suffering, Jesus paid the price that we could not pay, taking upon himself the punishment for our sins. When looking at the cross, many see only pain and death. But for Christians, the cross is the ultimate symbol of love and hope. Jesus, by dying, was not defeated. On the contrary, he conquered death and sin, offering all of us the possibility of a new life in God. The words he spoke on the cross, of forgiveness, trust, and surrender, not only reveal his character, but also establish a new path for humanity, the path of redemption. On the cross, Jesus' suffering transforms into victory. The blood shed, the pain endured, the death faced, all culminate in an act of love so great that it offers everyone the chance to be reconciled with God. Jesus' sacrifice on the cross is, therefore, the foundation of our faith and salvation.